Hello everyone, Happy New Year. I hope you had a great New Year's Eve. Warm welcome to my YouTube channel. So I'm actually away this weekend, so any orders placed on Saturday and Sunday will be posted on Monday. So as a New Year gift and as a thank you for your patience, I am offering free post on orders £20 and over with the code free post, all capitals. So if you enter that at checkout, you will get free postage. So I thought we'd start the new year by getting creative. So no idea what I'm creating. I've just pulled out a couple of things and I'm just going to enjoy myself. Oh, I know what I need. There we go. So I've got my brayer out again and I thought I'd use some paints. So I'm going to use marine and watery is what I'm going to use. So let's take these colours. So we'll take the marine, and it's a nice dark rich colour, and then I'm going to take the watery. There we go. And sometimes with the watery I give that a little bit of a shake. So I'm just going to braid these colours out. Can you see how I've braided those, and they're exactly the same on here. Now you can see how much pigment is there. You can see quite easily how much pigment I've got on that page. Just beautiful. Now we do have some excess, so let's braid the excess off onto my extra page. And if I just pick that up and I keep braying over, I'll sort of get a nice smoother look, because I'm just braying that over continually until I get a nice smoothish look. Just wonderful. So we'll just clear up our mess, just so that we're working in a nice clean area. And there's nothing much to clean up because I've braided most of it off onto my spare card. Let me just dry that off. Give that a bit of a dry. And then am I going to have it this way probably? Maybe that way. Who knows? But we're going to probably use it that way. I don't know. We're just playing around at the moment. Now what I was thinking was using stamp set TE47 Wild and Free. So if I take the stamp set out, obviously my paint is still wet at the moment. And I can take the acetate and I can see if I actually think I'm going to use it that way, you know, because I often use this stamp this way. Though you could add it twice then, couldn't you? If you add it that way. Do you like how I'm talking to myself? But then I've got more length if I do it this way. Oh heck. Make your mind up, woman. You see, I could extend. If you do it this way, I can extend the stamp to use it a couple of times. But no, I'm going to use it this way because I want more length and I can use the end of that branch. Yes. So I'm going to use it this way. Poor thing, I can't make my mind up. I'm then just going to take my heat tool and we're just going to dry that. And I'm just drying that acrylic paint because it's still wet. You know, you can leave that obviously and it can dry on its own. Look at that watery as well, the way they just blend into each other. Just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take, now I've just watched, now, what have I done with that? Bear with me. I literally, 5 minutes before I went live, I washed my cut and dry foam and then I left it in the bathroom like you do. But there you go. Look at the colours as well that I used before. So sometimes you can pick up colour schemes. So in my previous videos, I was using the deep purple colours. But look at those deep purple colours with the blue. So now I've got another colour scheme I might use. It's the deep purples with the marine. Because look how beautiful they look as well. So I might do that for another colour scheme. So let's grab our white again. Just to add our white because it just lifts everything beautifully. There we go. Let's move that out of the way. So we've actually got some room on our desk. Then I'm going to pick up some of the white paint and I'm just going to dab on some of the Harlequin design, and you can see I've used way too much paint, and I'm just spritzing that with a couple of spritzes of water. So there's two reasons I dried the paint. One, if the paint was still wet and then I went in with this white, it'd be all sort of claggy and it would stick, the stencil would. So I dried that layer before adding another wet layer. And what I'm going to do is just lift this up and see if it's done what I need it to do, which it has. I've used way too much white, so rather than wasting that paint, let's create another background because it seems such a shame, doesn't it? Now I think I may have enough moisture on here. So we're doing a twofer. So we get two for the price of one. And let's lift that up. There we go. So now I've got two backgrounds and I've not wasted anything really, which is always an added bonus. So I'm just going to clean my stencil first because I don't want that paint to dry on there. So this is the distressed background, snippet stencil 31. And then let's clean. And really, there's not much of clean up for the paint we use. It's quite easy to clean that up. And I've done the new, I always feel better when I've done a New Year clean up. So I had a cleaning day yesterday, riveting, but I do always feel better when everywhere's tidy and fresh for the new year. So let's bring this in again. And give that a nice thorough dry. And now I can't help myself. Just like I coloured the Harlequins in the previous video, I want to do it again on this video just because it just looked lovely. I'm not ready to move away from the idea yet. I really like it. So I'm just giving that paint a really good dry. There we go. And now you've got quite a lot of texture on there, so you need to remember that. Now, if you've got your stamping platform, let's grab the stamping platform, which I didn't do. Now, you saw that in my previous video, I used stamp set TE48 and I stamped straight on there, no problem at all. But I like to show, if you're a bit concerned that when you're using acrylic paints, you want a little bit of a safety blanket, you can have that with your stamping platform. Not that there's much room on my desk, unfortunately. Let me see. This is not exactly stacks of room. Let's bring this in. So I can bring my card in. And the advantage of your stamping platform is you can stamp over and over again if you're a little bit worried. So I can place my stamp in position, as you can see. And I can faff around a little bit, and I've got lots of magnets on here. I tend to use more magnets than is needed, because if your stamp's a little bit sticky, that really helps with that. And I've got something on here, I have no idea. I'm then going to grab my VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. So let's take the Nocturne ink so that we've got that lovely bold image. And what this also shows is that I've shown you a design where I used TE48 and the purples, but how you can make it look a little bit different with different colours and different stamps. So let's take this. And it doesn't matter too much when you're using the stamping platform whether you get a perfect image the first time. And to be honest, I have got a perfect image the first time. But if you haven't, you can go back down with your stamping platform and just reiterate your stamping. But I have a beautiful stamped image, no problem at all. So we can take this out. I'll just move that out of the way at the moment, and I'll worry about cleaning the stamp later. Now you can see it's the VersaFine Clair has got that glossy sheen to it, because you've got that oily ink and you've stamped onto a plastic surface. So the Nocturne is designed for a porous surface, and obviously this is no longer porous because you've got that plasticky layer. So what I'm going to do is give that a thorough dry, particularly because I'm going to come in with my Prisma pencils, and there is no point doing that unless that black is dry. So you really need to make sure that your black is dry. So don't lose patience at this stage. Just make sure that you've got that thoroughly dry. And you'll know if it's dry because it then goes to being matte. So you'll know that instantly. And if you're not sure, just take a piece of copier paper and just blot that. There's a tiny little bit I've got off there, but should be okay. But because I've got a little tiny bit off there, I'm going to dry a little bit longer, only because I'm going in with my Prisma pencils. That is the only reason why. So I'm going to grab my white Prisma pencil, which could have done with being a little bit sharper, but there you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in lightly with my white Prisma pencil, and I'm just going to sort of mark out, if you like, the actual floral, because there's paint on there. So I'm just marking this out. Obviously there is pure white anyway. So I'm just marking out some of the floral just so I can see exactly where that image is. And I'm pressing very lightly, but it will give me a little bit of a white base just to work from. So that any colours placed on there afterwards, you know, they would be nice and vibrant, which is what we like. So there's a little bit of a leaf there. What else have I got? We've got these, so we can add, but they're nice and bright anyway. But what you can see is I've sort of marked out very pale in the white my floral, and you can see the white paint goes over my floral as well, which is absolutely fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in with another lightish layer of the floral. So I'm going to come in with another lightish layer of that floral. So this, and it just means that when you come to colour with some more of your colours, they've got a white base rather than a dark blue base, just to make that a little bit easier to colour. There we go. So it just makes it a little bit easier for you to visualise. So I'm then going to come in with some of my colours. So I've got my dark colour, which is indigo blue, PC 901. I've then got my mid colour, which is china blue, PC 1100, and my light colour, which is cloud blue, PC 1023. So I'm going to come in with my dark colour and just add a little bit of the dark colour. Let's have a look. Have I got one? So you have to sort of take your time to see where your lines are on the floral, only because you've got that paint layer on there as well. So you just have to take your time. And I'm just adding a very light layer at the moment. Then I'm going to come in with the china blue 1100. So come in with your paler colour, a little bit more of a vibrant blue. And then I'm just going to stop what I am doing. Okay, so what I'm showing you is, can you see the blue on there? You can see that quite clearly. Now, to me, when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking it's not going to, what's the word, pop enough. So before I go in with any more layers and decide I don't like it, I'm actually going to paint the floral white, just so it stands out a little bit more. So let's grab a finish brush, and I'm going to use a little bit of water with this, mainly because my paint is quite rich. There we go. So I'm just sort of diluting that a bit. As you can see, I mean, look how thick and lumpy my paint is. And I can't have it around the edge of the brush. It's just one of those things I don't like. So what I'm going to do now is, I've changed my mind, you see, and I'm going to come in and we're going to just mark out our floral with the white, because I think the colours will just pop a little bit more if I add that white layer. And I want to show you the difference it makes. And I'm also showing you that just because you have a dark base doesn't mean that you can't have everything popping against that dark base. By using your white paint. Your white paint is just wonderful. How far do you come down there? And then I want a little dot in the centre, just so we remember. So we've got a little dot in the centre, just so that we remember. And it just means that everything now has got that pure white base. And the difference it makes is huge. So what I'm trying to show you as well is, even if you have a background that's quite dominant, doesn't mean that you can't have your florals standing out in the background. And I just love doing this. Also, what it's showing you is that if you wanted to leave your florals completely white, well, you could. It's entirely up to you how you wanted to work. So let's have the leaves as well. And doesn't it make it look completely different compared to when I was trying to colour straight onto that dark background? But it's important that I show you these things and how they work or don't work, whatever. Let's bring in, so you can colour your leaves. I'm not going to colour, but can you see what a difference that white paint makes? So if you wanted to leave it white, you could leave that completely white. Now, my videos take a little bit longer because I don't edit anything out. I show you the videos in real time, which means that you see warts and all. And also, I like to show you what happens if you do something. So, for instance, I stamped this in the black and I showed you that I started colouring and I showed you what happens without the white base and how it's sort of lost in the background. And I like to show you those things because when I was first learning all about products, it was funny because things wouldn't work for me and I couldn't understand why. And it's because I didn't get shown sort of warts and all, mistakes and everything, because I'm a visual learner. I really need to see everything to sort of get it clear in my head. Well, what happens if you do this? What happens if you do that? And why does this happen? And sometimes I couldn't get things clear in my head because I'm not very technical and I'm useless at instructions. So I'm a very visual learner. And because of that, that's why I teach the way I teach, because I know what I struggled with and wasn't told. Now I'm adding a couple of layers and I'm keeping sort of this area where the petal upturns, not in the white at the moment, just so I can see where I'm going. I'll probably do those areas once I've coloured. But doesn't it look lovely in the white? So I won't cover up all this white because it's really appealing. And my Prismas will go rather nicely on this white now. And I've added a couple of layers of white just so that that really pops against my background. Again, it's all about those layers. And making sure that, you know, that those layers work. So instead of a dark base now, I've got a really light base. So then everything pops a little bit more. I think I've got a leaf here. Have I just made up a leaf? Do you know, I think I have. I think I've just made up a leaf, which is hilarious. I've made two leaves that don't even exist. Never mind. Doesn't matter, does it? Got 2 leaves now where there should be 1. Actually, I'll just make that into 1. That's better. Goodness knows what I was doing before. That's it. And then you can just add a little bit to your branch, just so that pops a little bit more. Make sure you've got the bit in the centre so you don't forget that. But now that floral pops against that background really beautifully, and now you can see exactly what you're working with. And you can see, even when I look at it, it helps that I can look through the camera. And I've decided, yes, I'm just going to add another layer to this one. There we go. So we'll just tidy our little bit of a mess up. As you can see, the paint's drying on my non-stick craft sheet because the heating is on here. So let's give that brush a little bit of a clean, just so that doesn't get ruined. And now I've got rather a nice base to work on. But obviously that base is wet, so we need to give that a dry. Now, if you wanted a nice, simple design, you could quite easily leave it in the white. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to add more detail to mine because that's what I enjoy doing. I've got white paint here, there and everywhere, so we'll just wipe my fingers. And then now, this has gone back to matte, so I've got no shine on the white paint. So now, if I come in and I add my dark, which is my indigo, which is PC 901, you can now see the colour. And now it just pops a little bit more. But I'm still coming in very gently. I'm not coming in too hard or too harsh with those colours. But then now the difference, not only whilst I'm colouring, but visually. Visually now I can see. There's also, it's going to have a little bit of white here. But I can now see quite nicely where I'm colouring. And again, just adding that nice and lightly onto the floral. I'm then going to come to my mid colour, which is China Blue 1100. So come in with the mid colour. Again, very lightly. And the Prismacolor work rather nicely on the acrylic paint. But again, not pressing too... I told you, I miss a petal every time. So not pressing too hard, even though I've got that acrylic base. You still don't want to be pressing too hard. I'm then going to come to my light colour, which is the cloud blue. So let's add a little bit of the cloud blue. And the cloud blue, I'm going into the previous colours. Each time I bring on a colour, I go in to that previous colour. And again, if you just liked a very subtle colour, it also works like that as well. You don't always have to blend completely. It's entirely up to you. So I'm just coming in with the cloud blue and just blending into the previous colour. There we go. And then I'm going to repeat that as I always do. So now I'm going to come in with that darkest colour. Now don't forget, the difference here is you're going to have lumps and bumps. So this is the indigo blue 901. So you're going to have lumps and bumps on that paint. So it's a little bit of a different texture. So remember, you've got those lumps and bumps. So it's not going to be completely smooth because you've got those lumps and bumps on there. Let's just add a little bit down there. So again, this is my second layer. And once again, I'm not coming in too firmly, but you can feel the texture on there. Let me just lift this up because these are the areas that where the petal has curled over. I haven't sort of coloured those yet. So where the petal is turned over, I've not coloured those yet. I'll probably leave those in white, you see, but so that I can see them, I haven't painted those areas in white as yet. So we're just adding that dark colour. And the only thing I can say about colouring is don't try to rush it. Because if you're in that state of mind where, you know, you're in a rush, it's never going to work. You need to have a little bit of patience. There we go. So there's our dark colour. Then we'll come into our mid colour. Now, the other thing you have to remember is because you've got that texture of paint on there, you're going to get a little bit of waxy bloom coming off because you've got that texture from the paint rubbing against your pencil. Again, that's all fine. But can you see how that white paint is doing its job? Everything is now really bright and it pops against that background, which is just lovely. Really pops against that. So just come in with your mid colour. Then you're going to come in with your light colour, which is the cloud blue. I love this colour, PC1023. And with that colour, I'm going to come into all the other colours and just blend that into all the other colours. And can you see I've left a bit of white, so I've not covered all of that white up, just so that that pops against our background. So that cloud blue, I'm going into all the other colours to blend that. Let's have a look, just so you can see. So I'm leaving some of this white just so that you can see that. So I'm definitely leaving some of that white. I'm going to come in with my third layer because I do like to do minimum of 3 layers. So I'm going to, where the petals meet, I'm going to make that a little bit darker. Now I can really feel the lumps and bumps just on there. Let's make that a little bit darker. So where the petals meet, I'm just making a little bit darker. There we go. So let's make a little bit darker. And this will be my last layer. So where the petals meet, I am going down there a little bit with that darker colour. Just so that got a little bit darker where the petals meet. Then we'll come in with our mid colour, which is the China Blue 1100. And you're coming in to that previous colour with your mid colour. So you're coming into the dark colour with your mid colour. Now you're going to have the grainy look from the acrylic paint, because my acrylic paint wasn't totally smooth, but I do like that look. And then I'm going to come in with my final colour, which is the Cloud Blue. And this, I come into all the previous colours with the Cloud Blue, just to blend that a little bit. Just to drag the other colours out. It just smooths that out a little bit. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is, will the white pencil be enough? Let's see. I don't think it will be, but you've got the edges now of your petals that you want to stand out. So here. So I'm going to use, let's have the bleed proof white. Let's pick up a little bit, a tiny bit of water. bit of white there. Let's pick up that. And then I'm just going to add these touches of white at the end of the petals. Just where things turn over, or the petals turn over. Just adding, and then let's just add a little bit of white to the centre, just so that that pops a little bit more. There we go. So this is bleed proof white. And it does exactly as it says on the tin, so nothing sort of bleeds through. And it's really a bright white. Now I'm not going to add green to the leaves because I just don't want that. I want that blue to really stand out, so I don't want to add the green. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of that white, just so it pops a little bit. Then I'm going to just clean my brush because I'm trying to be mindful that my brushes are not ruined. There we go. Just so you can see that. And now I want a light bulb sort of dangling. So let's just move these out of the way. So I'm going to bring this back in, and now I'll take this off because the ink won't be wet. So it means I'm not going to get ink all over me. Then I'm going to bring in TE25, which is this one here. So I'm going to bring in TE25. And I'm using my stamping platform. That's going to make it nice and easy. Again, lots of magnets for me, just so it doesn't move. So, do I want the... See, that is far too big. So let's use the smaller one. And I want that down here, like so. I can pick that up. Let's move this to the side. And then I'm going to take, where are you? Twilight. So I'm going to take that Twilight and I'm sort of going to use the edge of that ink pad. Just use the edge of that ink pad just so it picks up that detail. Hopefully we've got enough ink on there. If we haven't, it doesn't matter. See, that's all I need. So I'll just take that ink off. we go. So we can lift this up now. The other advantage of the stamping platform on this occasion is that it just keeps that card flat whilst I'm stamping, because you can see there's a little bit of curl on there. So then let me just, there we go. Can you see it's a bit curled, but there you go. If you use double-sided tape and when you stick it down, that just grabs hold quite quickly, but I tend to use the wet glue anyway. So I'm going to take my dark colour now, which is that indigo blue. And then let's just dangle this just from our branch. So let's come in with the indigo, just with that circular motion, just come in nice and lightly. Then I will come in with my china blue, and then we'll blend with our cloud blue just into the other colours. So at the moment we don't have any blend, it's just our first layer of colour. I'm then going to come in with the indigo blue once again and just lightly add. Now I can feel a bit of texture on here as a colour because we've got this white paint here that's underneath this light bulb. So just be mindful that that is on there. Then coming to the mid blue, which is the china blue 1100, and then you're going into the dark blue. And it's not a large surface area to colour. And then coming in with the cloud blue. And because I stamped in the twilight, I'd already got a dark edge on there, just to give a little bit more definition. Then our mid blue. And where I touch that paint, you get a little bit of that bloom. Just what I mean by the bloom is a little bit of the wax coming away from the pencil. Just so you can see, you're getting a nice blend. And I can't think of a better way to spend my New Year's Day and doing a little bit of colouring. This is my last layer. Cloud blue. Now I've got a couple of these diamonds as well, or sorry, harlequins. So I'm going to make sure that those are highlighted a little bit as well. So let's highlight a little bit of those. Shall we just highlight? Now that one is really dark. You might not highlight that as much. So just highlighting a little bit of the background. So I'm then going to come in to the mid colour. again, if I just want to make sure I hold that lightly and I don't press too hard, I can hold my fingers slightly higher up on my pencil barrel. Then we'll come in with our cloud blue, a lovely, beautiful pale colour. Now, I'm not coming in with too much pencil. I'm doing that very lightly. And what I mean by I'm not coming in with too much pencil is I'm not coming in too far into the harlequin, so that some of the background is still visible. There we go. And it's lovely to just spend an hour just colouring. It's just so relaxing. So now with my mid colour, I'm coming in to my dark colour. But you can still see that background. I'm then going to come in with the cloud blue. And the cloud blue means that the edges are not as harsh just on there. Again, my final layer, I'm now going to hold that pencil a little bit further down, and I'm going to come in with a little bit more of that pigment. And by pigment, I mean that pencil layer, the actual pencil I'm using. This is my pigment. So just coming in with a little bit of that darker layer. Not that you see much on that one. That's absolutely fine. Go into that dark layer with your second colour. There we go. And you're colouring such a small area, it really doesn't need much at all. And then just blend that, just blend that out with the beautiful cloud blue. And before my eyes, the edges just soften with the cloud blue, excuse me. So it just softens with the cloud blue, and everything's now got more life. So let's just add a little bit of shading. I'm going to use the same brush because you know me by now. So let's just get rid of that white on there. I'm going to add a little bit of shading just around my light bulb. The harlequins. Just so that stands out a little bit more. And I love doing a little bit of shading. Just makes me happy. So let's grab some of that water. I've got my kitchen roll, should there be too much. So if you've got a little bit too much moisture, you can always dab that off a little bit. and this just makes sure that you've got a little bit of a shadow. Just so they have a little bit more depth. I personally think it's worth it. Just to give a little bit more shade and depth to that design. Just think it stands out a little bit more. And now I love to add some Posca pen to that background, because again, as you can see, I've got my old Posca pen. Where's the other one? So that's not working too brilliant. That's better. That dark, dark background. Works beautiful with having some of that Posca pen on there. I'm then going to use the sentiment that's on TE47. Appreciate the little things. And I think for the new year, that's rather apt. So I'll take that black ink, and I need some white card. And you have to hope that I've got some spare card. I don't know where all my... I'll tell you why I've got no spare card. Because look, I've got backgrounds that still need to be used. That's lovely with the tag. I have got hundreds and hundreds of backgrounds. And light bulbs. Look, I've got no spare white card. Let's just use the back of that. So appreciate the little things. There we go. And you don't have to press very hard with those at all. So I'm just going to cut that out. And I'm going to cut the words up. Just so I can dot this over my background. So it's entirely up to you what you use and how you use your bits of sentiment. Sometimes I do love just cutting it up to go with my design. And I can just spread that over the design. There we go, I've got a little bit. There we go. So I've now got the sentiment. I can just add to my project. So just dot this over my piece. I just prefer it just cut up rather than one sentiment. So let's take this, and as you can see, I've still not filled my little glue applicator up. Oh, and it just works every time. I love it when something works every time. That's it. And I could just give this a little bit of time just to adhere before I try and start adding the shading, which would make a change for me. Because I don't normally. And then I'm going to add this to a black mat, and that's when I feel it all starts to come together, when you add the mats and layers. So let's just, now let me grab the top. There we go. And can you see it's coming away from the card? I'm pressing this down, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of time just so that starts to adhere. Can you see how the black layer starts to curl? And then if I just bend the card a little bit, there we go. And let's just rub in the middle, just so that that's adhered as well. So just, can you see I've got a little loop there to make sure that that adheres. So you just have to just give it a couple of minutes, especially if you're not using double-sided tape like me. I don't use double-sided tape because it grabs hold too quickly and I've never got it in the right place. That's just me personally. So I'm then going to add a little bit of shading, and if you're patient, because you've let that dry, now adding the shading is far easier than how I normally do it with things moving all the time. It's much easier. So let's grab a little bit of water, and then we can just blend our, and the Inktense, it just moves amazingly on acrylic paint. There's nothing easier than using the Inktense on acrylic paint. So I'm then going to add this to a 5x7 card blank. So let's add this to a 5x7 card blank. Let's make sure it's facing the right way. And that then is our New Year's Day creation, and hopefully the first of many. So I've started as I mean to go on, having some creative time. Got little hair there. There we go. Just so that you can see, doesn't it pop with the black and having your white card base as well? I just absolutely love it. You can also add a little bird or something if you wish, but I don't want to overcook it, and I'm quite pleased with that. And all of it, apart from the sentiment, is completely flat. You can also, if you want to, you can add a little bit of shading around your floral as well, just in a few areas. You can just add a little bit of shading just in a few of those areas, just to add a little bit more depth. To the florals. Do you like how I say bye and then I carry on? It's just me all over really, isn't it? So you can come in and just add a little bit of shading. And now I promise that's it. So I hope you'll give that a go, and I hope you enjoy that. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.